paśyati darśanam naiva naiva paśyatyadarshanam vyākhyāto darśanenaiva draṣṭā cāpyupagamyatām.
Paśyate darśanam naiva, naiva paśyatyadarshanam. Vyākhyāto darśanenaiva, draṣṭā avagamyatām. MMK chapter 3, verse 5. This is a good one for someone who is really devoted to Zazen, which I would like to think that I have been for 35 or so years, but reflecting on it, sometimes your reactions show what you're really attached or not attached to. So I'll come to that in process of explaining what I think the words mean word by word. So the first pada, looking does not see at all. So that's looking is the nominative subject darśanam, does not see, na paśyati, but in this verse, according to Anne MacDonald, in order to fit the meter, it's paśyate, which is an earlier form of paśyaty, which was, the text was amended by later scholars of classical Sanskrit. But Anne MacDonald, I think, has convincingly argued that Nagarjuna's original would have been paśyate, otherwise it wouldn't fit the meter. And in fact, if you listen to the recitation of Kashinath Nyaupanir there on bodhisvara.com, he says, he does gives it a long I, paśyati darśanam naiva, because that's how the meter goes. But in fact, the I of paśyati, the E of paśyati is short. So actually, I'm sure Anne MacDonald is right. Paśyate, he sees. So na paśyate, does not see at all. So it sees. Darśanam paśyate darśanam na, looking does not see. Eva, at all, emphatic. So naiva, not at all. So of course, because darśanam could be the nominative subject or the accusative object, we can take draṣṭā in the fourth pada as the subject. So the looker, draṣṭā, naiva, not at all, paśyate, sees, darśanam, the act of looking, the act of seeing. So again, that makes sense. The looker does not see the act of looking, for the same reason that the one who goes does not visit the act of going, because in the now being visited, there's no separation of subject, verb, object. It's the same principle as that, if we take the subject as draṣṭā, the looker. But it also has meaning to say, with darśanam as the nominative subject, looking does not see at all. So if we take darśanam, the act of looking, as representing action in general, and especially the action of sitting, it's saying, again, it's like saying polishing a tile is not for the sake of making a mirror. In the second pada, not looking, adarśanam, does not see at all, naiva paśyati. So we've got the extra syllable in adarśanam is joined with the T of paśyati. So it's one of the kind of nice, aesthetically pleasing things about Sanskrit poetry, like that. You've got the same words, which is naiva, paśyate, adarśanam, which has got, when I say them like that as 3 words, there's an extra syllable, there's 9 syllables. Naiva, 2 syllables, paśyate, that's 5, adarśanam, that's another 4, that's 9 syllables. But because T and A go together, you've got naiva, paśyate, adarśanam. The chad is 1 syllable, so you've got 8 syllables in the second pada, like in the first pada. So, not looking does not see at all. Looking does not see at all. Not looking does not see at all. So polishing a tile does not make a mirror, and sleeping in bed till 11 o'clock in the morning also does not make a mirror. I mean, not polishing a tile, not practicing zazen, because you're hungover from the night before, let's say. That doesn't make a mirror. That's how you can understand those 2 padas. But the really interesting one is the second line, the 3rd and 4th padas. And yet, so that's cāpy, cha and apy, and yet, the looker, draṣṭā, should rest assured, avagamyatām. So, avagamyatām is imperative, passive, and I think causative of avagam. So avagam means to understand or be convinced. So gam means to go, and ava means down. So for me, it carries a connotation of Master Logan talked about receiving a hit, boom, being struck. That's a bit like when Nelly Ben-Ur would say, "Yes, that's it." It means reality has kind of hit you. So, in the sense that avagam means to convince or to assure, I thought this imperative passive could be translated rest assured, and that fits the meaning as I understand it. So again, the looker should rest assured that by the means of just looking, darśanenaiva. So that's darśanena, instrumental singular of darshana, the act of looking or seeing, eva, emphatic. So if we think of darshana as representing an act of looking, which in turn represents the act of sitting, so then darśanena means by that means, by the means of looking, by the means of sitting. And the eva adds the sense of just. So for me, by the means of just looking, is suggesting the means whereby in the Buddha's teaching is just sitting. It's the means whereby. And if we ask the means whereby to what end, that might be a little bit of end gaining. This is the philosophy of just sitting. Just sitting, and just sit and don't be interested in gaining the end. So don't try to become Buddha. See, this is what Nishijima Sensei taught me and taught all his students. The irony was that if you have a concept, a non-empty concept of right posture, which you can realize by pulling in the chin, etc., 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 that is wanting to make a mirror. It's turning right posture into a mirror that you want to make. So ironic, really. If I was a better person, I'm sure I would laugh heartily about the whole thing. But because I'm a mean-spirited, resentful old bastard, I'd rather spend my life complaining about it. So hopefully my complaints will be heard. Well, that'd be endgame as well, wouldn't it? That's what I want, isn't it? I want my complaints to be heard. And ironically enough, this line exactly is going to that point. as I shall try to explain in a minute. First, let's go through the words. So, and yet the looker, draṣṭā cāpy, should rest assured, avagamyatām. So draṣṭā cāpy avagamyatām, apy and ava go together, apya. Draṣṭā cāpy avagamyatām. And yet the looker should rest assured that by the means of just looking, darśanenaiva, he is communicated in full. Vyākhyāto. So vyākhyāto is past participle, it's nominative, masculine, agreeing with draṣṭā, the looker. So the looker, vyākhyāto. So past participle of vyākhyā, and vyākhyā means to communicate or to tell in full, and it's a word I like already because I've thought long and hard about it in connection with Canto 16 of Soundarananda by Ashvaghosha. The title of that chapter in Sanskrit is Arya Satya Vyākhyāna. So Arya Satya is the noble truths, and Vyākhyāna is what the Buddha did. So Vyākhyā, the first meaning it says in the dictionary is to explain in detail. So on the surface, it means the Buddha explained in detail the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. He explained them in detail. But as always with Ashvaghosha's words, you have to look what it means on the surface and what it means below the surface. And so the way I translated it in the end was communicating the noble truths. Communicating the noble truths. So not necessarily explaining in detail in words, but how did the Buddha ultimately, how did he communicate the noble truths to Nanda? He didn't write them down on a piece of paper and say, go away and study these four word by word and sentence by sentence. Again, this is just fundamental teaching of Shobogenzo. You communicate the way that the Buddha's truth is communicated is by sitting in zazen together, ishin denshin. With the mind is transmitted. So that's how it's communicated in full, by means of just sitting. But in this verse, you see he's saying he is communicated in full. The looker, draṣṭā, is communicated in full. Vyākhyāto. Vyākhyāto. Draṣṭā, nominative singular masculine. Vyākhyāto is communicated, nominative singular masculine. How? Darśanena, by the act of looking, ever, by just the act of looking, or by the means of just looking. Darśanenaiva, by the means of just looking. So what he's saying in this line is exactly what fukan-zazengi is all about. And it's also, for example, what chapter of Shobogenzo that I very much attached to when I first read it is chapter 72, zanmai-o-zanmai, the samadhi which is king of samadhis, where Master Dogen praises so highly just sitting in full lotus. And one of the phrases he uses there is furi sorin, not leaving the forest. So that's part of the reason I bought this place where I'm sitting now with the forest behind me. I always had it in mind that I would like to follow that teaching, sort of disappearing into the forest and just practicing zazen. And so in that chapter, Master Dogen says that practice lacks nothing. It's just a yellow scroll on a red stick, so it's a Buddhist sutra. So what he means is you don't need to spend your time translating MMK and blathering your views and opinions on YouTube videos. Just sit in lotus, not leaving the forest, and everything that needs to be communicated is communicated in full. But in fact, he doesn't say everything needs to be communicated. He said the looker here, by the means of just looking, darśanenaiva, the looker, draṣṭā, is communicated in full, vyākhyāto. So when I reflect on that, as I was alluding to before, some part of me was satisfied. I bought this place nearly 20 years ago. I've been renovating it gradually over 20 years, but mainly coming here and just sitting. And on some level, I did believe that Master Dogen's message and what Nagarjuna is saying here, but on some level I didn't, and that was proved to me in around 2006, 2007, when over many years I realised that Nishijima Sensei had seen me as belonging to the other side because of Alexander technique being about thinking. So I knew where it was going, and I thought I was mentally prepared that never mind, I'll just stick to my practice as that, and I'll be fine, you know, whatever Nishijima Sensei decides. I thought I'm not going to lobby to be his successor, you know. If he thinks I'm on the other side, then, as Gabriel used to say, that's his problem. So I thought I was mentally prepared, like you think when you dive into the cold sea, you think it's going to be fine, and then it hits you, and you get the shock. So 2006, 2007, 2008, when Nishijima Sensei said Brad Warner was his successor, Brad, who had sort of publicly put himself above me and kind of gave me a dressing down by email, you know, little brat, you know, having turned up after I had slaved so hard on the Shobogenzo translation, which he came along and then said it wasn't mine, it was Nishijima Sensei's. And Nishijima Sensei said, "Thank you, Brad, for your beautiful words." Yeah, thanks a lot, Brad. So what was interesting, what was revealing to me at that time was I thought that I believed this. Just let me devote myself to sitting by the forest and you won't hear a peep out of me. I'll be quite satisfied with that. But I wasn't. I had this pain in my stomach for about a year and a half, real pain in the pit of the stomach. It was like my energy was turning in against me. So I knew I'd had that twice before, in my early 20s and my early 30s. So I knew from experience that what would heal me was directing my energy strongly in some direction. In my 20s, it was the Shobogenzo translation, really, as well as doing copywriting work. And it was also going back to karate training that helped heal me at that time. And in the 30s, it was diving into the Alexander technique. So what happened in my 40s when that happened is I started studying Sanskrit, starting with Ashvaghosha. I dived into that wholeheartedly in the autumn of 2008. And hey presto, the pain in the stomach disappeared straight away. But because in my daily blog doing the Ashvaghosha work, I felt that I was communicating. It was therapeutic because I was saying what I wanted to say. And so that was the fact. It worked. And this is working. I feel like I'm communicating myself in doing this work of translating Nagarjuna and commenting on it. But what's interesting is what Nagarjuna is actually saying here is the looker should rest assured that by the means of just looking, he's communicated in full. You see, what he's saying is you needn't understand this teaching. You needn't be in a hurry to understand it, and you needn't be in a hurry to show other people that you've seen what it means. But I am actually. You know, I do want people to see and hear. But that the antidote to that end gaining is in this teaching. It's not about making others see and hear. It's upholding the principle of looking and listening. So Zazen is an act of looking and an act of listening. So if I give the impression that your job as the person, what I want you to do is to see what I'm saying and hear what I'm saying, then I'm not doing my job. I'm not doing my job at all. I'm encouraging you to end game. So this is the human condition actually, and no better example is Nishijima Sensei himself, self-confessed bookworm, who attached very, very strongly to books, and he wanted his name above mine on the Shobogenzo translation. That was important to him, which I agreed to. You see, and he at the same time as a businessman, he wanted it to be a 50-50 translation. He thought he was being generous in making that deal, 50-50. But to me, I agree with it, but it's a bit ridiculous, since I devoted my life to serving you. It was a bit insulting in some ways. And then in 1997, when I got the shock of my life, and he stopped me translating before we got to the finishing line, I asked him why he decided that. He said, I took the decision as a businessman in the modern ages. Anyway, the point I wanted to make, which is I think very relevant to this verse, and it shows how difficult it is to really believe it. The people who really believed it, we don't know who they are, because they went into the forests and the mountains in China and we never heard of them. But the phrase that Sensei used on a number of occasions was that I was out to erase his efforts. He was afraid that I was out to erase his efforts. And that didn't mean he was afraid of me criticising him like I'm doing now. It meant he was afraid that he wouldn't be known as the translator of Shobogenzo. If he'd really understood this line, and if I really understood this line, those kind of things wouldn't worry us. But they do. That's the human condition, isn't it? But as Nellie Ben-Or said on a similar... Nellie Ben-Or is, as well as being an Alexander technique teacher, she's a professor of music at the Guildhall School of Music. And she would sometimes talk about all the politics, all the political nonsense that goes on there. And I remember her saying once or twice, you know, but I'm part of that mess. He said, but hopefully I'm the one who sees it. You see, that's, yeah. Then if we misunderstand those words, we want to be the one who sees it. Again, it's a little bit of endgaming. What this verse, as I read it, is telling us is to believe in just the action. Just looking, just sitting. paśyate darśanam naiva, naiva paśyatya darśanam, vyākhyāto darśanenaiva, draṣṭā avagamyatām. Looking does not see at all. Not looking does not see at all. And yet the looker should rest assured that by the means of just looking, he is communicated in full.
paśyati darśanam naiva, naiva paśyatyadarshanam, vyākhyāto darśanenaiva, draṣṭā cāpy avagamyatām.